Hey guys, how you doing? Thanks so much for joining me in today's video. We're going to be talking all about ambient lighting palettes by Hourglass. I have volume 1, 2, and 3. We're going to be doing some swatches, comparisons. I am going to be applying number 2 and 3 to my face. I'm going to show you how I will use them, if I like them, if I don't. Just share the whole tea on these 3 palettes and let you know if I feel like they're worth it or not. If this is the first time here, I'm Gigi. I am a registered nurse. I am obsessed with luxury beauty. I love to review and do first impressions on them. If you like that kind of content, go ahead and click on the red button that says subscribe, and also go to my Instagram because over there I do keep you posted on the newest and the latest. And without further ado, let's start. Alright my friends, so let's get started. And finally I am getting around onto doing this video. I know some of you are waiting for this. This is going to be a video where I am comparing the 3 ambient lighting palettes by Hourglass. We have volume 1, volume 2, and volume 3. Volume 3 was part of their holiday releases. I did pick up their Universe palette and I did pick up their Universe Unlocked. I did 2 separate videos on those. If you wanted to go ahead and check those out, I'll link them above. Let's take a quick peek into the inside of the palette. In here we are going to get an ethereal light powder. We're gonna get a transcendent light powder and then a prismatic strobe light palette. So ambient lighting palette volume 3 retails for 83 Canadian dollars. Is the newest edition of the Radiance Enhancing palette, which features 3 brand new shades of ambient lighting powder, 2 finishing powders, and 1 strobe highlighter to create a seamless finish. This palette is ideal for medium deep to deep skin tones. So as mentioned, this palette is ideal for medium deep to deeper complexions. I am aware that I am not a medium deep complexion. I am a medium tan complexion, but I still wanted to pick this up. I still wanted to compare all 3 shades just in case you're wondering, you know, how would it look like on someone like me. I am an NC40 at the moment, NC42 during summertime, but right now I have no tan, so NC40 is what it is. So currently I have all my base done and I am going to be using these powders as bronzers because I cannot use them as finishing powders as they're meant to be used. These are just too deep for my complexion, which I am actually happy to see that they released something deeper. So let's go ahead and start the application. I am going to grab first the light shade here, and I am gonna take my Sonia Soft Cheek brush and I'm going to apply it as a bronzer. So this is what it looks like. I think it's very pretty. It leans red, so if you're not a fan of red bronzers, the first one is quite red, but I do understand why that undertone is more suitable for deeper complexions. So this is what it looks like on mine. I am using a fluffy brush. I'm not trying to pack a ton of bronzer, to be honest. So this is what it looks like on this side of my face. I did wanted to apply my medium 2 palette on this side of my face so that we can do comparisons, and I am going to be using the same brush. I'm just wiping it here in a towel. So I'm gonna use the deepest shade in here as bronzer, and I'm just gonna apply. So as you can see, with 3 or 4 layers of this bronzer, this just looks extremely natural. It is a very pretty. I did use the same, you know, brush to apply both sides. So I'm gonna take this Referal 05, which is gonna pick up maybe a little bit more product, and I'm going to build up this bronzer just to show you what it looks like. You can totally see that this shade is more neutral and so much more perfect for my complexion. even though it's very natural, you're still able to build it up, but not too much. Like, I don't see someone with deep complexions being able to use this shade because I am, as I mentioned, medium tan, and you know, I'm having to build up a ton. So this is what we look like. So both sides look very beautiful. This bronzer is very glowy. It is pretty. This one is glowy as well. But again, this with a red undertone and this with a more golden neutral undertone. So now let's move on to the deep palette again. So I'm going to be using the middle shade. And I'm going to take the same brush that I used. I'm going to apply a little bit more. Just right there for some sculpting. And I am being very, very light-handed because truly these powders are, yeah, they're pigmented. Okay, that's that. And then on this other palette, we don't have anything else as bronzer. The other two shades in here are going to be finishing powders. So I am going to go ahead and take my Sonia Master Face, and I am going to take the center shade, and I'm going to apply it just to buff everything. I'm going to apply it underneath my eyes, on my nose, like down here. And if I want to, I just go around the bronzer and everything that I did. So this center shade is just gonna give me a beautiful, soft, focus finish to my face. You can see that it really blended all that bronzer out, and you cannot see any harsh edges. On this side, I am seeing a ton of it, and I'm a little bit mortified. So I don't have any finishing powder here. So I do want to dip into this one, the middle shade, just to buff these bronzers so they don't look as harsh. That's it. I'm not going to use it just there. You can see how much of a difference it made, just to blend everything and make it a little bit more natural. Next up, I am going to be applying this shade as highlighter. I think it's a little bit deep, so I'm going to be very careful of how much to apply. It is beautiful, but it is very, very bronzy, so I'm not gonna apply too much, just like that. I may just take it down a little bit to blend into that bronzer. And then for the other palette, I do not have another highlighter, so I am going to take the lightest shade, and I'm just going to highlight underneath my eye. So I'm just gonna pack this shade to highlight underneath my eyes, and then apply a little bit in here, which I don't think it'll do much. Now I do want to even this under eye, because you can see that really brighten underneath. So let's go ahead and take a closer look using ambient lighting 3 on one side and ambient lighting 2 on the other side. So let me just go ahead and finish off my face with some blush. I need some blush, lipstick, and I'll be right back. Alright guys, so I'm back, and let's move on to some swatches, because I think that's like the main point of my video, is not to demonstrate as much, especially with the deep palette, but to swatch both palettes. I didn't put side by side the ambient lighting 1 and ambient lighting 2, so I wanted to do that. Of course, this is the deepest, and this is the medium shade ambient lighting 2, which looks quite quite light if you put them side by side. It is pretty much mission impossible to put them all side by side. They don't open all the way. So I am going to do first the 2 light shades. So this is on my right, it is the lightest. Then we get the medium, and you've already taken a look at the deep, but I had an extra hand, I could hold them all 3 at the same time. But yeah, So you get the idea. Of course, the light is quite light, which at the moment I don't really get use out of it. I only like mostly one of the shades as an all-over buffing powder. So in this palette, you're gonna get dim light, incandescent light, and radiant light. Dim light, incandescent light, radiant light. This is the shade I use the most on this ambient lighting one palette. You can see that it has a little bit of a peachy undertone, so I use it to buff when I don't have a tan, but I pretty much get zero to no use on that palette, if I'm being honest. Next up, we have Soft Light by the medium palette, and the middle shade is Radiant Light. I'll bring you closer in just a second. And then the bronze, golden bronze light. So here are the three shades for ambient lighting 2 palette. This is the shade that I use for underneath my eyes, and I really like that because it brings a lot of brightness without making my under eyes look great or anything. I really like the second shade for buffing, and then the bronzer is just okay. Again, I like it that it's neutral. I like it that it's not too red, but I just feel like I have to build up a ton you know, to be able to like really show up on my complexion. But yeah, let's do the dark shade. So I'm going to do the first here, then the second. You can see that these are very they're very deep on my complexion, and then the bronzy highlighter shade. So the last 3 shades are going to be, you know, the ambient lighting 3 palette. I feel like it was a big jump. I do feel like they improved a ton when it comes to deepness and richness, you know, of the deep palette. Final thoughts, my friends, after you saw the swatches and everything. I do feel like this is a big jump. I think this was a good compromise. I feel like, you know, from the medium to the deep, you could totally see a big jump of shades. I feel like if you're a richer complexion, you could totally benefit from the ambient lighting palettes and use them as buffing. You weren't able to do that with this palette at all. So I feel like this is a little bit more inclusive. Of course, take my review with great salt because I am not rich. I cannot demonstrate you know, how it will look like on richer complexion, but I still wanted to make it work, and that's why I went back and forth with my medium palette. I think this is pretty. I don't think it's suitable for me. I don't like it from my complexion, but that's just my fault, right? I decided to make this video and that's why I bought it, but I still wanted to point that out. I really don't like the red undertone on the bronzers. They're not bronzers, they're finishing powders, but I still didn't like it on my complexion. You don't get a bronzer in here. So if you're richer complexion, deep complexion, keep that in mind. They're not meant to be bronzers. You can use makeup as you please, right? As I bought it, I wanted it as a bronzer, but it just didn't work out for me. So keep that in mind. These are finishing powders. These are going to give you that beautiful finish and catching at the light and blah 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 that they're talking about. So this is not going to give you much bronzing. So if your goal is to use it as a finishing powder and you're rich, then this is going to work. But if you're rich and you're thinking about using this palette to bronze and to sculpt and to highlight, this isn't it. I don't think this is deep enough for, you know, for someone with deeper complexion to sculpt and bronze. So I just wanted to point that out and make it very clear. Okay, guys, that's it for now. I really hope this video was helpful for you. I know some of you were waiting for these comparisons. What do you think? I would love to hear from you. What do you think of these shades? What do you think of the jump from the light to the medium to the deep on Hourglass? Any thoughts, any comments? Are you deep, rich complexion? Have you tried this palette? I would love to hear your thoughts and opinion. They're all welcome in my comments below. Thanks so much, you guys, for your love and support. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.